Take back control. Stop letting algorithms decide your news. Get uncensored history and real knowledge to strengthen your mind, body, and spirit. Watch ad-free content now at ineverknewtv.com. Cuisine and their palate. A lot of black people are terrified of going to Africa when you talk to them in private because they have this idea about food. There's nothing to eat, this and that. Please, shortly now, right? Last question. Please break down like the cuisine situation in Ghana. And also what I found is that the high level of highly nutritious fruit, which is very affordable. 'Cause I bought one big bundle of fruit fire and it cost me no more than $3 US. I was shocked. Because I kept asking the lady, like the first, I wasn't sure if she was miscalculating. I just wanted to make sure. And she was like, no. And I went back and did it on my phone. And I said, this is wild. Yeah. But
yeah, she's even like, Dad, I overcharged this guy.
Yeah, speak about the produce. And also, that's a concern. Like, people don't speak about it, but they're terrified of the food. They have this idea about food in Africa. And that's I think that's one of the big, I'm not going to say that's one of the biggest, but that's definitely up there, one of the deterrents of people going to Africa.
So I'll say this. This is something I won't recommend, but for those who are looking for a soft landing, Pizza Hut is here. KFC is here. Burger King is here.
Say a soft landing?
I've never eaten at any of those places.
That's funny.
I've never eaten at any of those places, but for those who are looking for something that their palate is used to, all of those things, Kit Kat, chocolate bars are here. Coca-Cola is here. Pepsi, like all of those things. Which, again, those are death foods, so I wouldn't recommend that anyone expedite their death through the death style of eating that they are doing. But, those are there. So anyone who's terrified and that's the deterrent, well, fear no more. You can come and have a double cheese pizza or whatever it is that you're looking for here. But now to come down to what you're actually asking about, the food is a lot of what you're used to. I think your ancestry has passed through the Caribbean, right?
Yeah.
If you're familiar with rice and peas, that's the reason why you eat rice and peas is because rice and peas is one of the favorite dishes here. And this is where it comes from, right? So this is, what they call wachi, right? Or the Hausa call waki. So this is where it comes from. So if you're scared, oh, my palate, well, your palate, the things you're used to eating are coming from right here. If you're used to ackee and saltfish, ackee is a mispronunciation of the word anche. That's a tree word. And I have an ackee tree right on my land right here. So I can't eat anything there because I can't find my ackee. Well, this is where ackee comes from, right? So a lot of the things that you're used to in terms of a hearty meal or so forth and so on, it's actually originally coming from here. So that's one thing. When it comes to the nutrients, there's a 3-volume series and it's available for free as a download PDF. Lost Crops of Africa. And what it goes into, it has 1 volume on grains, 1 on fruits, and then 1 on vegetables. And it goes into all these things that actually, like, for example, you'll put into your soups here. And you're aware that COVID didn't hit in the continent like it hit other places. Like when, others are dying by the hundreds of thousands, we're here on the continent, we're laughing. Why? Because in our soups are things that cure everything. So, prekese, right? That's something that you'll put into a soup just because it tastes good. But lo and behold, this has all types of medicinal properties. Things like abidru, they call it turkey berry, is another thing that has all types of medicinal properties. You'll just put it in the soup and it tastes good. Things like osrowisa, famwisa, things like hentia. These are things that are actually used in medicinal practices. But all of those things actually have, they're part of the cuisine, right? So it's what gives it a spice. Black people anywhere don't want nasty food, right? So it's not gonna be like, you should be scared if you go to the UKKK because they got the most bland, nasty tea and crumpets that you could ever, scones. Like, what are you doing? You're gonna go there and you're not scared of that? Black people like food that tastes good. So it's gonna have some spice to it. It's gonna have some pepper in it.
Facts.
It's gonna be well seasoned. It's gonna be what you're used to if you grew up in the South. It's going to be, that's in the south of the United States. That's what you're used to if you grew up in the Caribbean. They have, doubles in Pelori. If you're used to that, you're going to be used to pincasso, right? You're going to be used to kose, right? Matter of fact, in Brazil, they have something that they call acarajé. It's nothing but kose. They just take the kose, they cut it in half, and they put vegetables in between, and they eat it like a sandwich. But it's literally the exact same thing as kose. right? And they call it akaraje because in Yoruba it's called akara. It's literally the exact same food. In places in the Caribbean, they have something that they call dokono. It's coming from dokono, which is the food here. So you'll take the dokono and you'll eat it, with the soup. So all of the things that if you're a black person, you should only fear the food here if you've only been eating tasteless, insipid, bland white people food, which is I don't even know, like macaroni and cheese. I don't even know what they eat. If you're used to mayonnaise sandwiches, I don't even know what they eat. But if you're used to nasty food, then that's where you should be scared. But if you want food that actually tastes good, then you should come because you'll be, the soups, the stews, everything. You're just gonna be eating all that you can imagine, and you'll be good. And for those who are concerned about that, you'll find that a lot of food, especially when I went to Upper West, but just in general, a lot of food is just naturally there's no meat in it. So like there's not like a meat version of kose. There's not like a meat version of wache. You have to add something to the wache, but you can go anywhere and get wache, and it's already meatless. When I went to Upper West, they have this food where they do the kose and then they mix it with moringa. Like a lot of the foods here, and it's interesting that there's this expression where they talk about mopping the floor instead of turning off the tap, and that comes from this white guy called Burkitt, right? Where they talk about Burkitt's lymphoma. So he, at one point, I think it was sometime in the 40s, he was stationed in Uganda, and he was seeing so this is a doctor, right? A medical doctor. And in Uganda, he was seeing that the black people there, they go to the bathroom, they defecate to the toilet like sometimes 2-3 times a day. And this was mind blowing to him because in the UKKK, where it came from, if they defecate once a week, they're doing a lot, right? They're compacted, they have constipation because what are they eating but bread and cheese and meat, and that's it.
Facts.
And what he came to was these people they're not eating much meat, or sometimes they're not eating meat at all. You go to Ethiopia, you have the bayanetu, it's a whole tray of food, there's no meat in it whatsoever. But he saw that the people are eating so much fiber that it keeps them regular, and they're able to defecate in the morning, defecate at night, and they're just like this. So he took that idea that, the reason for a lot of the diseases that they're suffering from was diverticulitis, whether it's colon cancer, all of these things that they have in the UKKK is because of their diet. And this was like a revelation. And what he came to is like, what they're doing is that they're prescribing drugs. And he said prescribing drugs is like mopping the floor because it's flooding. What you should do is go to the source and turn off the tap. If you turn off the tap, then you don't have to worry about it. But if you just keep mopping the floor, then more water keeps flowing and you're doing something stupid. It's never going to end. So what he said is because all of these things are metabolic, because all of these things in terms of diseases are coming from the diet, if you change the diet, then you don't have to worry about the disease anymore. And that is now very clear. People know that your sugar intake is somehow related to the diabetes you have, right? Your double bypass surgery that you need and your heart attack is probably related to that KFC and Pizza Hut and Burger King that I was mentioning earlier. So it's like people now see cause and effect with those types of things. But, nowadays, because like after quote unquote colonialism, quote unquote, I would say, black people here are now trying to eat like the colonists were eating. They're eating high on the hog, right? So basically what's happening is a transfer of diets. So because of Burkitt and like that revolutionary, idea he had of let's eat like the Africans, that's his thought. Now they're eating a lot more of the fiber and the fruits and the vegetables, whereas that's not the UK diet. Is bread, is potatoes, is meat, is cheese, and that's it. Yeah. Basically, right? That's all they're eating, and that's why they have all those diseases. They got gout, they got everything, right? And meanwhile, we were disease-free. Now we've taken the diet that they used to have, which is, I'm just trying to go to KFC every day, and then I'm going to show my girlfriend, look at how rich I am. I'm eating at KFC and Burger King. And now we're getting the diseases that they used to have that we never had before. So you'll find, now people are drinking powdered milk. And the more women are taking in powdered milk, now they're starting to get fibroids and they don't know why. Yeah. That was unheard of in the late 90s. But as soon as all these powdered milks started coming in, now they're having all of these, lactose intolerant symptoms. They're having, a lot of these things, like I said, the cancers and things that never existed before. So we've taken a quote unquote white way of eating to show, look how civilized I am now. and they've taken a black way of eating, and now, we're all messed up. And as a matter of fact, I think I mentioned this in the last interview. Many Ghanaians, especially in the south of Ghana, they don't eat any indigenous Ghanaian food, little to no. And the reason being is that the things that they think is Ghanaian food or is indigenous to them is actually brought by the Portuguese. So, for example, plantain isn't indigenous to Ghana, it's indigenous to southeastern Eurasia. How many people knew that?
I didn't.
Cassava isn't indigenous to Ghana. Kelewele, right? So cassava also isn't indigenous to this continent. It's indigenous. You'll find it in, Central America. They call it manioc and so forth and so on. Corn, what they call maize here, is also not indigenous here. That's also Mexican food. That's why they have corn tortillas and so forth. And that was brought, over by whoever, Portuguese, so forth and so on. And even the names of them in our languages tell you that a lot of these things are indigenous. So you have abe, which is palm tree, and you say abrobe. You're saying that's a foreign palm tree because it came from Brazil. That was the Portuguese who brought it over. They just said, oh, here's something that thrives in the tropics. Here's the tropics. We're just going to transplant it here, and we'll see how it catches, right? So a lot of these foods in southern Ghana, like a lot of the staples, are based on maize. So that's the, dokono. Now, originally, it was made with millet, right? That's indigenous to us, right? The millets and the sorghums and so forth, that's our food, right? The fufu, which is cassava and plantain, neither of those come from here. But what we used to do, you have to go to northern Ghana to find out what black people's diet actually is or is supposed to be, because you go there and they're pounding yam. So yam is ours. So when they say bordie, odie is a word for yam. So when you say bordie, you're saying a foreign version of yam, right? And that's the word for plantain. When you say efre, that's a melon or, like a pumpkin type of thing. So when you say brofre, you're saying that's a foreign version of efre. So anytime you see these words that start with bro, like brofo, broni, and so forth, you're saying this is a foreign version of whatever this last root element is. And that's, a good thing. But again, if you just go to the north of Ghana, a lot of the foods there, those are the indigenous foods. I remember eating in Mali, everything, they were doing baobab leaf sauce, basically like how contomere is done here, right? And I remember, and that's the first time I ever had baobab fruit, right? Or baobab, as it's called. And I remember at the Institute of African Studies, one of my students, who's from Ghana, he's from Kwewu, I was eating the baobab fruit, and he was like, is that food? Yeah. So look at how divorced he is from indigenous foods, that he thinks that the foods that are foreign, like the cassava and plantain fufu, he thinks that that's indigenous, and then the things that are indigenous, he doesn't even know that that's food. So that's where we are right now.